Hey there, MantaRay79 here, and I'm back with another deck profile video for the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game. In today's video, the deck profile I'm going to be doing one for is D standard formats, Dragon Empires, Dragonic Overlord the End with D Special Series 2 Festival Collection 2022. Alrighty then, let's get started. First off, the right deck. And now for the right deck. For the cards in this right deck, we have 1. Grade 0, Lizard Soldier Undu. 1. Grade 1, Embodiment of Armor Bar. 1. Grade 2, Dragon Knight Nehalem, and 1. Grade 3, Dragonic Overlord. The Grade 0 starting unit, Lizard Soldier Undu. Like any other starting unit in the D standard format, he features only one skill. When written on top of, if you're the second to go to Grade 1, you get to draw a card. The Grade 1, Embodiment of Armor Bar. His skill is, as a Vanguard, when written on top of by Dragon Knight Nehalem, you may activate a skill at a counterblast of 1. If the cost has been paid, you may search your deck for any Grade 1 or less unit and add it to your hand. Ideally, this first skill can be used to add either a Perfect Guard or any other Grade 1 unit from your deck that you wish to use for your later game strategies. The Grade 2, Dragon Knight Nehalem. His skill is, when written on top of by Dragonic Overlord, you may move Dragon Knight Nehalem from your soul to the rear guard. Thankfully, with this skill, you'll be able to have a rear guard Dragon Knight Nehalem whose rear guard skill can later support your Vanguard Overlord later in the field. The Grade 3, Dragonic Overlord, one of the main Grade 3s to ride in this deck. His skills are, the first skill, as a Vanguard or a rear guard, whenever Overlord attacks your opponent's rear guards, they cannot guard with anything from their hand. And the second skill, as a Vanguard, once per turn, after this unit's attack hits, you may pay a counterblast of 1 and discarding 1 card from your hand. If the cost has been paid, you may stand your Vanguard Overlord and minus 1 drive as a additional cost. So for this second skill, it's another basic restanding ability for the Dragonic Overlord series. By paying the cost and fulfilling certain conditions, you can attack twice with your Vanguard. And with that, we've just about covered the deck's right deck. Next, let's go to the main deck. And now for the main deck. For the main deck, let's first start with the Grade 1 lineup. For the Grade 1 lineup of this deck, we have 2. Grade 1, Dragon Monk Gojo. 3. Grade 1, Blaze Convert Monk Kagero. And 4. Grade 1, Twin Buckler Dragons. The Grade 1, Dragon Monk Gojo. His skill is, as a rear guard, after boosting a successful attack from your Vanguard, you may retreat Dragon Monk Gojo from your rear guard and countercharge 1. So mainly this skill is when used to boost your Vanguard, you'll be able to countercharge 1, which will have you a extra counterblast you wish to use for other unit skills if you have any you wish to use. The Grade 1, Blaze Convert Monk Kagero. His skill is, during your turn, when discarded from your hand, you may counterblast 1. If you've paid the cost, you may give your Vanguard plus 10,000 power till the end of the turn. So it's for this new Grade 1, which was released in the new D-SS02 booster. He's a good card to use with Dragonic Overlords, since pretty much all D standard format Dragonic Overlords and Dragonic Overlord the Ends require that you discard cards from your hand to do the restanding skill. So if you've managed to secure Kagero in your hand beforehand and discarded him from your hand for either a right deck cost or for a restanding cost for your Dragonic Overlords, With the additional counterblast, you'll be able to have a extra 10,000 power ready for your Vanguard Overlord's second attack. The Great One, Sentinel, Perfect Guard, Twin Buckler Dragon. Like any other Perfect Guard in the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game, he features the same skill and activation and requirements. When used to guard with, you may discard one card from your hand. If you've done so, the opponent's attack has been blocked. And also, like all booster provided D standard format Perfect Guards, he features an additional ability. When used to guard with, if you have less than 2 cards in your hand, you will not have to pay the usual hand cost to do a Perfect Guard. So ideally, if you've got less than 2 cards in your hand, like 1 or 0, Twin Buckler can serve as a no-cost Perfect Guard in tight situations. And with that, we just about covered the deck's Grade 1 lineup. Next, let's go to the Grade 2 lineup. And now for the Grade 2 lineup. For the Grade 2s in this deck, we have 3 Grade 2s, Dragonic Overlords, 4 Grade 2s, Burning Horn Dragons, 3 Grade 2s, Berserk Dragon, and 3 Grade 2s, Steel Bullet Duststorm, Ethans. The Grade 2, Dragonic Overlord. His skills are, the second skill, as a rear guard, once per turn. If your Vanguard is an Overlord, you may pay the cost of Soul Blast 1. If the cost has been paid during your turn, the Nehalem who paid for this skill and your Vanguard Overlord gets plus 5,000 power till the end of the turn. So for this second skill, it makes your Dragonic Nehalem a 15,000 power attacker from the front row and a 5,000 power giveaway to the Vanguard Dragonic Overlord. And one of the best parts about this unit skill, it's though on its own not possible. With multiple copies of Nehalem on your field, the effect is possibly stackable. Since if you've managed to call multiple copies of Dragonic Nehalem on your field and pay Soul Blast 1 for each one, it's possible to at least stack power to your Vanguard 5,000 for each Nehalem who's been called and used, whose skill has been paid for. So technically, it's possible to use this skill 2 to 4 times as long as you manage to fill out your field with Dragonic Nehalems equal to the number of times you wish to use this skill. The Grade 2, Burning Horn Dragon. His skill is, the first skill, when called onto the rear guard, you may counterblast 1. If the cost has been paid, you may chalk the top 7 cards of your deck for a Dragonic Overlord and add it to your hand. And if no card was added to your hand by this unit's first skill, you may countercharge 1. So it's for this first skill, it's a good way to search your deck for Dragonic Overlord or Dragonic Overlord the End to secure yourself a Persona Ride or Cross Ride later in the game. And the best part about this first skill is it's refundable, since in the possible event that you fail to get any cards from this first skill, you can then refund the counterblast you earlier paid for this first skill. And the second skill of Burning Horn Dragon, as a rear guard, whenever your Vanguard Overlord attacks, your Burning Horn Dragon gets plus 5,000 power till the end of the turn. So with this second skill, it's possible for Burning Horn Dragon to serve as a 15,000 power to 20,000 power attacker from the front row, as long as you've managed to attack with your Vanguard Dragonic Overlord and even use its restanding skill to attack with a second time, thus allowing this second skill's plus 5,000 power to stack on its own. The Grade 2, Berserk Dragon. Its skill is, as a rear guard, whenever it attacks, if your Vanguard is an Overlord, Berserk Dragon gets plus 5,000 power till the end of the battle, and it can use a skill. The skill is, by counterblasting 1, you may retire one of your opponent's Grade 2 or less rear guards. So with Berserk Dragon, he serves as either a 15,000 power attacker for the front row and a possible rear guard retirer for the Dragonic Overlord series in the D standard format. And the Grade 2, Steel Bullet Duststorm, Ethan, despite having only 9,000 power, which is less than the usual Grade 2s in the D standard format, his skill more or less makes up for it. For his skill is, as a rear guard, whenever your Vanguard's attack hits, you may retreat Ethan from your rear guard. If you've done so, you may draw 1 card and countercharge 1. So this grade 2 is more or less like a possibly improved version of the grade 1 Dragon Monk Gojo, since the grade 1 Dragon Monk Gojo requires its countercharge skill to only when you boost a successful attack from your rear guard. With Ethan, it has a lot more freedom and flexibility, since it doesn't require to be on any specific part of your field or other conditions. It only says that as long as your Vanguard's attack hits, you'll be able to pay for this skill and not only countercharge 1, but even draw an extra card for your hand. And with that, we just about covered the deck's grade 2 lineup. Next, let's go to the grade 3 lineup. And now for the grade 3 lineup. For the grade 3s in this deck, we have 2 grade 3s Dragonic Overlord, 4 grade 3s Dragonic Overlord the End, and 2 grade 3s Penetrate Dragon Tribash. The grade 3 Dragonic Overlord, since I've already explained its skills during the ride deck part of this video, I'm just going to skip over and go straight to the end. The grade 3 Dragonic Overlord the End, one of the other main grade 3s to ride in this deck. His skills are: the first skill, during your turn as your Vanguard, if you have Dragonic Overlord in your soul, then your Vanguard Dragonic Overlord the End gets plus 5,000 power during your turn, and its drive check cannot be reduced. And the second skill of Dragonic Overlord the End as a Vanguard, once per turn after attacking, by paying a cost of Counterblast 1 and discarding 2 cards in your hand. If the cost has been paid, you can restand your Vanguard, and it gets -1 drive. So as for the second skill, it's a prominent restanding skill for the Dragonic Overlord series, and like I mentioned in the end of this skill, it reduces 1 drive, but if you are able to have Dragonic Overlord in your soul when you use this skill, the -1 drive is negated as long as you've secured this other grade 3 in your Vanguard the End's soul. And the grade 3 Penetrate Dragon Tribash, his skill is, as a rear guard, whenever your Vanguard attacks, if your opponent has 2 or less rear guards on their field, you may move Tribash from your rear guard to the soul. If this cost has been paid, your Vanguard gets +1 critical till the end of the battle. So as long as you've managed to clear out your opponent's field and have them reduced to 2 or less rear guards on their field, you can give your Vanguard +1 critical till the end of the battle. So though it's a pretty early card from the D-Booster one, it's still a pretty handy card to have if you want to pressure your opponent with more criticals, even for a brief moment. And with that, we just about covered the deck's grade 3 lineup. Next, let's go to the trigger lineup. And now for the trigger lineup. For the triggers in this deck, we have 1. Dragon Deity of Resurgence, Dragvita, over trigger. 4. Burning Field Dragons, critical triggers. 4. Conduct Spark Dragons, critical triggers. 3. Flare Veil Dragons, draw triggers. 2. Cure Flail Dragons, heal triggers. And 2. Stealth Fiend, Amavira, heal triggers. The grade 0, over trigger, Dragon Deity of Resurgence, Dragvita. The over trigger for the Dragon Empire Nation. His skill is, when revealed for a drive check or a damage check, you get to add 100 million power to your Vanguard and draw a card, and an additional ability, which is you can restand your Vanguard if you've revealed it in a drive check. So like any other over trigger, during damage or drive checks, if you're lucky enough to get this card, you get 100 million power. But if you reveal it in a drive check for your Vanguard attack, the additional ability will let you stand your Vanguard, which works well with Dragonic Overlord, since the Overlord series specializes in restanding and attacking multiple times with your Vanguard. The grade 0, critical trigger, Burning Flail Dragon. His skill is, as a rear guard, After boosting an attack, you may move Burning Flare from your rear guard to the soul. If you've done so, you may give one unit on your field plus 2,000 power to the end of the turn. So for Burning Flare Dragon, he's a good way to restock your soul with cards simply by having him boost an attack from the back row, and he can also give a little extra power to your remaining attackers with just a mere 2,000 power after using his skill to restock your soul after boosting with him. The Grade 0, draw trigger, Flare Veil Dragon. His skill is, when used to guard with, if your Vanguard is Grade 3 or higher, he gets plus 5,000 shield. So as long as you've managed to ride to Grade 3 first or above, when you choose to guard with Flare Veil, he can serve as a 10,000 point shield. The Grade 0, heal trigger, Cure Flare Draco Kit, one of the new cards released in the D-Booster Special Series 2 2022 Festival Collection. His skill is, when used to guard with against an attack that has 2 criticals or more, and if the plus 2 critical or more is added by any other effect besides original critical or trigger effect, he gets plus 15,000 shield. So usually he's meant to use to guard against attacks who add criticals by either skills or card effects, and not by trigger effects or by already original critical of 2 in their printed card. He can be a 25,000 shield for those kinds of attacks. The Grade 0, heal trigger, Stealth Fiend Amavira. Her skill is, when used to guard with, if the attack she guards against has attacked twice or more during this turn, she can serve as a plus 15,000 shield as a 25,000 shield on her own. So her skill is morely used to guard against attacks against units that have attacked twice or more during the turn. So ideally it's used to guard against cards that restand and attack multiple times, like fellow Overlord users or Bastion or Bruce. And with that, we just about covered the deck's trigger lineup. For the triggers in this deck, we have 1 over trigger, 8 critical triggers, 3 draw triggers, and 2 different types of heal triggers, adding up to 4. And with that, we've just about covered the main deck. And now I've just about covered all the card effects and the cards in the deck build. Next, I'm going to explain the main playstyle meant to be used in this deck. So for the playstyle that this deck is meant to be used for, it's first, you have to ride the main ride line in the ride deck from Lizard Runner Undu, Bar, Nehalem, Overlord. Move Nehalem from the soul to the rear guard. Then on your next turn, try cross-riding the Dragonic Overlord at the end. And then on your field, you surround yourself with either front row attackers like the Burning Horn Dragon and Berserk Dragon, or possibly Penetrate Dragon Tribash. And when attacking with your Vanguard's Overlords or Dragonic Overlord at the end, paying for their cost to restand, try to secure the new card Kagero in your hand to discard from your hand, and paying an additional counterblast to, not only by restanding your Vanguard, you have Kagero's skill, you can give him an extra 10,000 power after attacking. And also with Tribash, you try to perhaps use Berserk Dragon and a rearguard Dragonic Overlord to clear out your opponent's field in order to use Tribash's skill to add +1 critical, which will give your Vanguard Dragonic Overlord at the end more pressure, since it also, the +1 critical from Tribash and the plus 10,000 power from Kagero will work well together. And yep, so this deck's main playstyle is used to mainly to ride the main ride line of Dragonic Overlord, cross-riding Dragonic Overlord at the end, filling out your field with either cards that specialize in front row attacks, or cards that specialize in retiring your opponent's rear guards, and then using skills that benefit from having having more rear guards like Tribash, and cards that benefit from being discarded like Kagero. So it's all meant to be used for having your Vanguard, the end is the center of your offensive strategy. And alright, so with that, I just about explained the playstyle meant to be used with this deck. And so here we are at the end. I just about finished explaining the deck build and the playstyle meant to be used with this deck. So first off, I want to say thank you to the viewers for watching today's video, and to please stay tuned for more videos I plan to upload again in the near future. I also hope you all show support by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to my videos and channel. And with that, I say goodbye and see you all soon.